It's Anya from Interior Design Hub, and today we're going over the industrial style. I'm so excited to go over this look with you guys today. Let's dive in. So what is this style? Well, it's actually similar to, just what it says, industrial. It's industrial looking. But what is that really? So it does take its cues from old factories and industrial spaces. I think the key thing to note with the industrial style is it really takes a lot of its elements from natural and raw materials. So think woods, steels, brick, concrete, as well as salvaged and recycled materials. But there's a way to pull this all together because we've heard these materials before, but industrial style has definitely a unique look over some of the other styles that we've talked about. So one of the key takeaways when you're trying to create that industrial look into your home is, although what I'm going to show you is a lot of hard lines and there definitely is a lot more of an angular and I would say almost masculine or kind of colder vibe to it. I don't know if that's like the right thing to say, but it definitely is, not so much curvilinear and definitely much more angular in look. And it can sometimes read cold. And the key is to really mix some warm materials with the more industrial metal wood feeling. When trying to curate this look, you really want to hammer home that simple design style. Solid upholstery and natural textiles and neutral colors. Very similar to some of the stuff I've been talking about recently, what I love about the industrial design style is that it really does hit home on sustainability as well, because much of what you use in the industrial style look is reclaimed pieces. It's also a very flexible look. I think what a lot of people think with any style that we've talked about is that it has to be a certain way. But you can build that look that still is very much your own personality. When attempting to achieve an industrial look, you really want to make sure you're thinking of natural hues and natural materials, and then focus on some unique textures. So think of like a metal with like that hammered nail detail to it. That's a really, great industrial piece. You want to, like always, pull together all of those different elements. So from the pieces of furniture to the space that you're in to lighting, decor, it all wants to read in the same family. One of the things with industrial style is I definitely will say it's a very bold statement. When you see an industrial space, an industrial styled space, it's industrial style. What I love about this style is that it really incorporates that modern but that rustic look together, and not like that farmhouse look at all. It's a totally different old versus new. And by modern, it's that clean lines. One of the things with industrial style is that it's definitely more on the minimalist side, although some of the pieces are large and even somewhat, I would say, ornate in the sense of natural textures, when it comes to a brick wall. However, or when it comes to, a hammered metal look or, whatever those may be, it almost has more of a lived in and worn look to it, versus like the modern minimalism that's much more clean and I guess soft in a way. This is much more rugged. And what I like about the industrial style as well is that you don't have to curate it to look soft. There's no like tricks or cosmetic things that you have to really do. Being rugged and bare and salvaged and more raw is actually really going to help achieve that look a lot more than having a very finessed space. A little bit of history on industrial design style, because we can't go into a design style without talking about where it came from. So it's a little bit fuzzy. But it's widely assumed this style started somewhere in the early 20th century. So at the end of the second industrial revolution, there was a lot of stuff that ended up being shipped overseas to become manufactured. So we took a lot of our industry and we basically farmed it out. And what happened was there was a lot of factories and warehouses and different spaces that were just left vacant because they were no longer producing the goods there. Move forward in time, sometime around the 90s, cities started, booming again, and things were growing and more people were moving into spaces, and there was a real shortage on real estate. So what some of these old factories and warehouses were looked at is reimagined into residential spaces. And that's where you really started seeing that loft trend come. And that loft trend was also very industrial because a lot of the look of those spaces was actually curated to keep a lot of the authenticity of the space. And with the authenticity came exposed beams and brick walls and concrete polished floors. And that really was a big catalyst to the industrial style. They really chose to just celebrate the space for what it was and saw the beauty in keeping a lot of those parts and pieces bare and authentic and raw. And that's the industrial style and where it came from the best of my knowledge. Let's really dive down further into how to achieve this look. So when we're thinking about materials in a industrial style, we really want to think of like rugged and materials that are almost like a workhorse. You really aren't looking for like super plushy fabrics when it comes to the industrial style. You want something that's hardworking. That's really a part of this look. And repurposing, so going to your local antique shop and finding old pieces is really a great way to find items to bring into your industrial design space. So some items, some materials that you want to keep an eye for: wood, steel, metals, aluminum, iron, tin, copper, stone. So natural, all natural stuff. Also, really take advantage of like the distressed look. Like that's really will elevate that industrial design style. The industrial design style also really does focus on more of a neutral color palette. And, think of elements like grays and blacks and whites, metals and natural materials and stone. So that same color family, so very neutral palette is typically what we see in the industrial design style. It almost has, like, I want to say masculine, but maybe more moody, because I'm definitely drawn to that look as well. So I would say that masculine, moody type tones is really where you want to really kind of encompass that style. That's really where you want to kind of focus on. And then for like that splash of color, you do want some bold hues, but just in the accent pieces, just very minimally throughout the space. So I talked about this earlier. When we're thinking about the industrial style silhouettes, what you want to think about again is that very squared line, blocky shapes, very utilitarian, I think is the right word. It doesn't mean you can't use curves and different things like shape-wise. However, you just want a smaller amount of that type of shape when you're doing this look. So interestingly enough, when you're thinking about your accessories for an industrial style, you want to think about just minimal amount of accessories. Again, it's kind of like that minimalist approach, but it's a very different look than a minimalist look. Minimalist is almost more white and bright and airy, and then industrial is more dark and metal and almost like moody. So like there's a very different feel to them, but some of their principles are very, very similar. Another thing that I think is fantastic, I think I've said this in a few different styles, but is also if you are going to do some accessories, a big bold statement piece always goes a long way in a space like this, especially if you're lucky enough to live in a true loft space that you can really, do something over the top. This is where it's a great time to use it. Also, it's a really great opportunity that if you do have the space that you can use something that's salvaged, that's like a big, metal sculpture piece or some type of, salvage, signs or different things like that. This is one of those design looks where you can really like play up using some of those reclaimed, reused, found pieces. So one of the things and one of the really big elements with the industrial design style is open spaces. So they really do lean towards a more open floor plan. Again, that loft warehouse look. And that's really big part of, I think, like getting that full-on industrial look. Not to say you can't use industrial elements and that inspiration in any other, home, but it really, really takes it to the next level if you do have a big open space. And then when you do have that big open space, it's really creating zones with the furniture placement so that you end up getting that truly industrial feeling. So some of the elements that really, hammer home that industrial style look is a polished concrete floor or even a hardwood floor, but almost more raw and more of that hand scraped look to it. So one of those key features, which I feel like we've definitely seen, is keeping stuff like the ductwork exposed and the piping exposed. All of those type of details that are usually covered up inside the ceiling. In an industrial style, you definitely see them, more exposed and open and visible to everybody, and generally people will paint them black or something like that, so they're not like super noticeable but still there. When you're thinking of decor pieces, think of like salvaged factory parts and old factory equipment pieces, something that would look really cool but that's like from a factory or some form of industry. And even like black and white photos and vintage photography, like all that kind of stuff really adds to that vibe of that like industrial look. And then remembering, combining things like woods and metals is really, really a big part of this look. And then you don't want to forget lighting, and again, using that metal materials. And we see this kind of everywhere. We see a touch of industrial design in so many things, and you can really take this look and you can add it to any space. Like you can have a Victorian home with industrial influenced design style. I mean, you absolutely can. So it's taking that look of that natural raw material, combining it with some warmer tones like woods, and really pulling together the feeling of a lived in and a space that's not overly curated. Although it's so designed for that, it's really kind of meant to look more natural, I guess, more raw, and it definitely has more of that, moody kind of darker masculine look to it. What I love about this look is that you can really find a lot of these really cool details, salvaged. You don't have to go and buy new stuff. Although they make a ton of new stuff that has this look, this industrial style look to it, which is fantastic if that's what you want to do. But it's great that you can still achieve this look and not have to go and buy something new. You can go and search for a salvaged item that really has a story to it, and it really ties into that boho and sustainability, like that same kind of like, let's take something old and give it new life. And again, I mean, I love the industrial look. I think it's such a fantastic look, and it's one that you can easily achieve. So if this is the style you're going for, I hope this video helped. Alright guys, if you're enjoying this content, please comment below. Let me know what design style you guys want to hear about. I would love to do a video on it. So comment below with a design style you would like me to cover. And if you're enjoying this content, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit the thumbs up button and consider subscribing. Alright guys, until next time.